Hey, everybody. So, we should talk a little bit about what the plague is actually about. And to begin with, let's talk about the setting. So, Camus is actually a French Algerian descent. He is born in Algeria and is actually what the French would refer to as a pied noir. And they don't really use that term very much anymore, but it was a term that basically referred to people who were living in Algeria as French citizens and as sort of colonists. That's the best way to describe them. They were often people, especially these pieds noirs, that had lived in Algeria for their entire lives, never really been back to France or had been back to mainland France once or twice. And eventually, we were basically told by the French government, you have to return to France because the era of colonization is coming to an end and it's getting unsafe. It's not going to be safe for you to stay in Algeria because of the conflict. We will be talking a little bit more about the Algerian conflict in a while, but suffice to say, things didn't go well for either side. And France ends up looking pretty bad because of the Algerian conflict. So Camus is very, very familiar with Algeria. He bases actually two of his most famous works in Algeria, both The Stranger and The Plague are situated in Algeria, and he himself sort of takes up the cause of the Algerian people for many years, especially during the Algerian conflict itself. So the setting is very indicative of what Camus would have known of the country. And it is important to remember that when Camus paints this picture, when he sets this story in Algeria, we don't necessarily need to read into this at all, but we should understand that this is the way that the French were living at the time. Algeria was seen as somewhat of an exotic destination. It was across the Mediterranean. It was north of Africa. It was a beautiful place. And for the French, it was the perfect place to send people, very much like the British sent people to India and to outer territories, right? Because, the land was less expensive. It was less expensive just to live there in general. And you had all of these indigenous peoples that you could basically hire for almost nothing, right, to work for you and to sort of be your servants and the people, the domestic help, right? And so things ended up looking pretty bad for the French, like I said, but this particular book allows us to see what Camus imagines that a plague would have looked like. And he bases this actually off of two other plagues that happened around the same time in roughly this location, right? Neither of them got to the level that we will see in the plague, but bubonic plague was a thing. It was still a thing. It is still carried. It still could happen, right? But now we have containment methods that are a little bit more effective. However, as we saw during the COVID pandemic, things can get out of hand very quickly in any country. This book is a little bit of a reminder of that for us, and there are things that we're definitely going to see in this book that we're going to maybe recognize from our own experiences going through a global pandemic, in our lifetimes. And so as we read this book, right, the context historically is very important, and also the idea that we are going to be engaging with a few things that we may also be somewhat familiar with. And it is a reminder as well to think about people that we may know in our lives who were medical workers or who decided to volunteer and help out during the pandemic in various ways, right? That this is something that Camus is painting a picture of, and that we, through this lens of existentialism, are going to look at as well and say, what kind of interpretations are we going to make of the actions of these people? When we look, again, as we've talked about in previous videos, at the motivations behind what all of our main characters are going to do, I encourage you to keep a list of those things to sort of think about what you think the motivations behind a lot of these people are. The people's actions. Why are they doing the things they're doing? Why do people want to help, or why do people want to hide? Why do people want to stay? Why do people want to leave? And what have we read in Sartre so far that allows us to sort of evaluate that in a more a deeper level, if you will. So in the next video, we will talk about part of, right, the first half of the plague, and we will start to sort of take apart certain characters.